Mark Twain said the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. I found out not just why, but what I am and why I am.
Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I am Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer at the Center for Victory. With us today should be a fun interview. I think guys are going to like this. Corey Lyon Folsom. He's from Venice Beach. He lives in Venice Beach now, but he's a Northeastern like myself. But Corey has been an Aboriginal skills instructor, professional tracker, vision quest leader, and wilderness guide for newly sober people. After a spiritual soul awakening in 2009, Corey participated in a few things like Source School for Tantra Yoga, Love Coach Academy, Tony Robbins, other programs, certified NLP practitioner, love and relationship coach, and he assists persons from all over the world to increase their soulfulness, clarity, and ease with their experience in life. Corey's passionate about helping people enhance their empathy and communication. We could all use that. And enjoys daily movement and is the proud father of two adult sons. Corey's award-winning book, Soul Statements, which we're going to talk about, is a practical guide full of simple yet potent tools for making small shifts that produce outsized benefits in life and love. Dude, welcome.
Thanks, man.
Sorry, I just called you dude, but I'm excited.
All right.
Corey, wow. Let's dig in. Can we just jump right in and I can start pepping you with questions?
Let's go.
What is a soul statement and why is that different from an affirmation?
Well, a soul statement, it's first of all, it's based on the premise that answers are in your center. Also, there's an attitude of, or an understanding that what's inside of you is greater than what's outside of you. And so, we can script in advance what we want to say in those moments of helplessness, hopelessness, distress, unhappiness, feeling less than. And so we can give our brain a better thought in that moment. In other words, something more empowering, something more resourceful, connected to our own resources. So, for example, if you're not sure you're up for something, you can say, hey, I can call upon the grit inside me, or my soul knows what to do, or I have a loving heart. My heart's a trusted guide. So those are soul statements that re-anchor you, create a little more emotional coherence with what's true. So you're not emotionally inhabiting a future state, desired experience. You're re-anchoring to what's strong inside you, to what's powerful and available, in that moment. So then your next thought can become a better one. It's informed by, oh, wait a minute. And I'll actually say to myself, oh yeah, I used to think that. And what's really true is what's right about me is always available.
Well, let's jump back a few years, right? Because I think a lot of people just assume, like the guests that I have on the podcast and myself sometimes, just like, hey, we arrived and everything's good. And I like to go back and tell the story, right? Because that inspires people. Like you didn't just get to that answer that you said kind of overnight. I said when I introduced you, you had a spiritual soul awakening in 2009. What was that all about? How did that shape where you're at now?
Sure. Well, just to quickly or briefly go way back, I grew up in small town America, wonderful family, Eagle Scout, all, did the thing. But when I arrived as an adult, I didn't have skills to deal with conflict or upsetness because we didn't have that in my family. We were just good to go, and that's fine. And when I got out in the world, I'm like, I'm unprepared. So, and I was also really shy. So I managed to get all the way through high school without ever initiating a conversation with a girl. I just was way too shy. But what that really meant was I was living my life trying to avoid embarrassment. And so it became somewhat a fear-based situation. So fear-based decisions, what could, I'm afraid of my greatness, if you will, my exuberance, my certainty. And so I shrank and made myself smaller, and I learned not to have needs. And so that didn't have great results in life and in love. And I just didn't have those skills to have hard conversations, difficult conversations. So at one point I was newly divorced for the second time. And I went to a workshop, and I didn't know anything about Tantra, but somebody suggested it. Oh, like go to this weekend. Well, there was this exercise. So I'm sitting with this woman and we're eye gazing. And so the way I think about Tantra, it's attention to the moment. It's being as present as you possibly can for life, for the moment. And so here we are, we're eye gazing, and it was just a beautiful experience. And something clicked, snapped, changed, shifted, and all of a sudden I wasn't the me that I'd been pretending to be all my life. I was just the real me. And so what it felt like was that the air in the room had gone away and was refilled, replaced with breathable joy. And so I felt like my molecules were changed, my cells were vibrating. Yes, like you found you. Mark Twain said, the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. Yes. And so I found out not just why, but what I am and why I am. So, and then the job going forward, once I found Corey, was to keep him. And so that's how I really got supercharged into, trying to keep me, and soul statements came out of that.
Yeah, I know we're big in adventure here at Center for Victory, and it sounds like you are too. What are some of the things that you're doing? And it sounds like, is it specific to newly sober people, or are you taking anybody, or is?
Yeah, so I spent 3 years working as an instructor, teaching people of all ages how to, make fire without matches and build a shelter with your bare hands, and know what edible plants are around and plants to stay away from, and tanning hides, and all those kind of aboriginal skills, how to ancient people just get by. And so I loved that. And then I found a program that was kind of nomadic, aboriginal skills based in the wilds of Idaho, but 3 weeks long, but centered on our clients were the newly sober young folks who needed to just get away from that same old playground and the same playmates for a good chunk of time. And so I did that for 3 years, and then I went to another program and did it, another 9 years. So I and at different times it was adults, different times it was teenagers, but I loved it. And I loved just being real with people. And so when you're an addict or an alcoholic, and you maybe started at age 13, or you've kind of short-circuited your ability to have, tough conversations and be honest with yourself. And so that's what we were learning, just how to be human with each other.
I mean, I know one of the things that we do, it's just, and maybe you could speak to this, there's just something very unique when we can get people outside, get them away from everything else, and then start a conversation, right?
Yeah, right.
What's one of your success stories?
Well, I'm thinking also you brought up being in the wilderness, or in nature. And the thing about that is you develop this respect for forces larger than yourself, the weather, the darkness, the seasons, the topography, the unexpected. There were so many times I just, especially in those first couple years, I just kept thinking, I've never dealt with this before. And how am I going to figure this out? How are we going to use each other as allies and compatriots and work together and, to save ourselves or get more comfortable or whatever. Success story. I'm trying to pick out one. I can remember so many times a person would just not want to do the program. They're like, you know what? And the thing was, we weren't really set up to kick people out. It's like you could add time, but you couldn't shrink time. So, or shortcut it. So there was one guy, he was, trying to think, he was from somewhere out east, could have been Pittsburgh, I don't know. And he found like a cowboy dump, and there was an old wine bottle in there. So he decides to whack one of my instructors in the back of the head with a wine bottle. And this guy had been a former Marine, wounded in Vietnam, and stuff. So that was not going to put him down. And so it all got handled very quickly. But then they're like, well, what do we do with this guy? We just don't want him to stay as like a bad apple with everybody else. So we could send him, and he was court ordered, one of the rare people that a judge had said this or jail. And so if we send him home, his life is going to really take a really bad turn. And so we didn't end up pressing charges. And because the owner of the company came out and said, hey, Corey, how about you just go one-on-one with this guy, just go off by yourselves and spend the next 2 weeks, just you and him. And I'm like, oh man, that's the last thing I wanted to do, because he's a big guy, And so I said yes, because I knew the alternative for him.
Yeah.
And I made it actually really hard on him, really tough. And I gave him materials to make a fire that were almost impossible to do. And I wanted him to struggle. I wanted him to be frustrated, but not too frustrated, to where I positioned myself as an ally. And it was just me and him. And I remember we just put our little blankets down in the sand at night. And when I felt he was sleeping, I would just pick up and move out into some rocks where he didn't know where I was. So I didn't want him to know where I was sleeping. But as time went on, he really saw me as a partner in creating a new life. And we had really good conversations, and we hiked around and got through obstacles together. And I heard, 5 years later, he was doing well. He had graduated college and starting a little fam, and he was creating a life. So that was a success to me.
That's a good one. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. We mentioned your book, Soul Statements. Is there a reason why you wrote that?
Well, there is, because, I heard one of my teachers say one time that our minds aren't designed to make us happy. They're designed to keep us alive. So they're always looking for what's wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true for me. And what's wrong is always available. But so is what's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
we can focus on what's right. And I'm like, oh yeah. And so I started asking my coaching clients, in that moment when you're just about to blurt out this terrible thing at your partner, or you're just about to make some poor decision, what's your brain telling you? And they're like, oh, I'm this, and I'm never going to do that. And, some unhelpful thought. And so I said, what's true about you? And so, oh, I have a loving heart. I am enough. It's like, of course there's a process to getting there, or these people are lucky to meet me. And so they had such great success inserting those thoughts in those moments that I thought, oh, I should write a blog about this. Well, anyway, a blog became a book.
Hey everyone, Caleb Kolb here with AMP Adventures. Today we are out in Glacier National Park in Montana. We're just a couple miles south of Canada. There's some beautiful views here. This is Kinnerly Peak, Kitla Peak, Mount Peabody. So It's been a great trip so far. If you're interested on any of our adventures, check out the experiences tab. See you on the trail.
And then in the soul statements, I mean, one of the things, I think, especially like for busy people, I mean, we talk to a lot of people, do a lot in businesses and corporations. How do soul statements help busy people improve themselves and, really to take care of themselves, right?
Yeah. And the more you're clear on the inside, the more you're reminding yourself what you're made of and what you're capable of, then you can speak more powerfully from your center. You can speak with more clarity. You can realize that this circumstance is not going to wreck me, or I'm not as challenged by it. And so you can speak to what's really important. And it's like by remembering who you are beneath the circumstance, beneath the worry, you can speak from your own value and what you value. And so, that's clarity. And if you can just be clear, communication naturally flows from that.
And like the clients that, you're coaching clients and things like that, why are they typically coming to you?
They're typically coming, the vast majority of them are women. And the most common thing I hear is, I'm single, or I'm about to be single, or I don't want to be single, and I want to prepare myself to meet someone really right for me. And I don't want to repeat the same BS that I've had every other time. I don't want to do it the same way. I want a different pattern. I want to kind of up-level my experience of love. And so that's the starting point. And to me, part of the ideal scenario is that they fall in love with themselves and realize all the great, wonderful things that are in them that they can access. And part of that is, some kind of practices that connect you to you. And for some people, that's a hard workout or a stroll in nature or sitting gazing at a candle or journaling. It's whatever connects you to you is a good thing. And I like to say time cultivating your spirit is never lost.
That's good. Before I forget, Corey, how do people reach out to you? Like, how do they contact you?
Primarily through my website, corerelationship.com. There's a couple dozen articles I've written. There's a page about my coaching approach and style. There's a page about the book and and a couple links to order the book. Soul Statements, a Love Coach's Guide to Successful Communication. So it's all kind of right there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, wonderful. We said earlier in your introduction that you are the father of 2 sons, correct?
Yes, I am.
All right. Let's talk parenting a little bit, because I like being a dad. Yeah, I have 2 grown children as well. What's your greatest joy now that you have, you could see how old are your boys?
31 and 28.
Yeah. What do you enjoy most? Like, if you could narrow it down to one thing, what do you enjoy most about them?
The fact that I think about first my older son, the fact that he's willing to work hard for his dreams. And, he'll get up early in the morning so he can meditate, so he can have a better day. He'll just choose the difficult thing if that's the thing that's best. And the both of them have really generous, open heartedness, heartfulness. And so they have beautiful hearts. And I love that.
Wonderful. We always ask all of our guests at the end of each show. So the question's coming, but all of our guests, we always ask. I'm really excited to hear yours because you said you had it already, and you weren't nervous about it, so it must be really good. We always ask people, because it's your best day yet. We always ask people, hey, how would you describe your best day? Both personally and professionally. So,
Yep.
What do you think, Corey? How are you going to describe it? What was?
Okay, well, I said I had it because I gave a talk at Unity Church in Monterey last fall specifically about this. And uh, I would say that today is the best day of my life because all the previous days, some of them were awesome. Some of them I had, connectedness. Some had loss. Some had grief. Some had all sorts of things, but they're gone. They're not here. I mean, they live in my memory. They kind of have be part of what's, I've become because of them. But I can't. It's like, imagine, like, how much would you pay to be able to go back and spend a day with your boys when they were like 6 and 2?
Mm.
One day of that, I'd pay a lot, but you can't. And the fact is, it's like it was like a performance, and now the curtain came down, and now it's a new it's not that I'm performing, but it's similar to that in that it's intangible now. And so in the future, I have things I hope to do, but they're not here yet. It's just theory, and God willing, I'll get there, but that's not guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
And so today I can live it in real time, and it's what I got. So that's why today is always the best day.
All right. Great answer. Anything else that you would like to impart on our listeners?
Well, one thing I was thinking of earlier is that, I came across this recently and I love it. The hero and the coward initially feel the same thing. What they do next makes the difference. And so you can learn to call up the best part of you in a moment. And the next right action just is more obvious when you're connected to your own value. And that's what a soul statement is meant to align you with.
Well, that's a perfect ending. Thank you. I'm glad I asked you. Oh, that's wonderful.
Indeed.
Yeah, man. I guys, I hope you've enjoyed this, Corey. I know I got a lot out of it in our short bit of time. Hopefully, one of these days you can come back on and impart some more wisdom on us. But thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate it. And you're always welcome back.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's all for today, folks. Man, if you want more information, you can get with Corey at corerelationship.com. And if you want more information about Center for Victory, it's centerforvictory.com. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this your best day yet. We'll see you soon.